Did you know European colonizers used sophisticated tactics to manipulate African communities into conflict? During their colonization of Africa, European powers employed the chillingly effective divide and conquer strategy. After watching The Origins of European Imperialism by Johnny Harris, I was struck by how these tactics continue to have consequences today. The divisions they created contributed to the transatlantic slave trade, which tore families like ours apart. This inspired me to create my own video exploring how this history shaped our ancestors' lives and our own. Greetings and welcome. I'm Carolyn A. from GettingToTheRoots.com. Here, we're all about uncovering and celebrating your unique family history. Together, we'll explore and honor the stories that define us. Let's dive in. What tricks did Europeans use to control African lands? In the years leading up to colonization, Europe was rapidly evolving due to the Industrial Revolution. This period saw significant advancements in technology and a surge in industrial activity, leading European nations to look beyond their borders for new resources and markets. Meanwhile, Africa was a continent rich with diversity, home to numerous kingdoms, empires, and smaller communities, each with unique traditions and political structures. As European interest in Africa grew, the scramble for Africa unfolded, a chaotic period during which European powers divided and claimed African territories. Influential figures such as King Leopold II of Belgium and British imperialist Cecil Rhodes were instrumental in driving their nation's colonial ambitions in Africa. The Europeans employed a cunning strategy of divide and conquer in their colonization efforts. Recognizing the existing ethnic and political divisions within Africa, they exploited these rifts to create alliances with certain groups while antagonizing others. This strategy not only facilitated easier control over territories, but also prevented the formation of a unified African resistance. Europe's successful colonization of Africa largely depended on its ability to exploit the pre-existing divisions among African societies. By forging alliances with some groups and setting others against each other, European colonizers managed to establish and maintain control, paving the way for their extensive and prolonged presence on the continent. If you find value in this video, please show your support by liking it, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. This aids in improving our visibility through YouTube's algorithm. Now, let's get back to our video. What role did advanced weapons and medicine play in European colonization efforts? The technological gap between European colonizers and African societies was stark and played a crucial role in the colonization process. European powers came equipped with the latest advancements in military technology, which included firearms like the Maxim gun, the first fully automatic machine gun, and repeating rifles. These weapons gave European forces a devastating advantage in battles. For example, despite an initial setback at the Battle of Isandlwana, where Zulu warriors triumphed, the British eventually demonstrated their military might in the Battle of Omdurman. In this conflict, British forces equipped with modern artillery and machine guns decisively defeated the Sudanese armies, showcasing the lethal efficiency of their technological superiority. In addition to military technology, medical advancements played a significant role. Quinine, an effective preventative against malaria, allowed European explorers and soldiers to venture deeper into the African interior, regions previously less accessible due to the threat of the disease. This capability was crucial in enabling sustained European exploration and military campaigns in tropical Africa. The European advantage was not limited to weaponry and medicine. It also extended to infrastructure development. Steamboats, which could navigate major rivers like the Congo and Nile, were instrumental in the rapid movement of troops and supplies, bolstering European military campaigns and fortifying their positions in strategic locations. Likewise, the construction of railroads facilitated the quick and efficient transport of resources and military personnel across vast distances, opening up previously inaccessible rich areas for exploitation and control. Furthermore, the telegraph revolutionized communication, allowing for near-instant coordination and command over large distances. This technology was pivotal during various military campaigns and administrative tasks, ensuring that European commands could maintain control over vast colonial territories with improved communication speed and reliability. How did European colonizers exploit Africa's internal divisions? The landscape of Africa before and during colonization was not just diverse, but also fragmented by numerous internal divisions. These divisions played a crucial role in the colonization process. Historical rivalries and conflicts between various African kingdoms and empires, such as those between the Ashanti and the Fante or the Zulu and their neighboring powers, had already created fissures that European powers could and did exploit. By aligning with one group against another, Europeans often positioned themselves as powerful allies, tipping the balance of power in their favor and gradually undermining regional resistance. Moreover, the ethnic tensions and conflicts, stemming from differences in language, culture, and historical grievances, provided fertile ground for European strategies of divide and rule. These strategies involved exacerbating existing conflicts or creating new ones, making it easier to control large populations with relatively small numbers of European troops and administrators. Another significant factor was the pre-existing internal slave trade. European colonizers capitalized on these networks, purchasing captives to be sent across the Atlantic. This not only bolstered the transatlantic slave trade, but also further destabilized African societies, weakening their ability to resist European advances. The lack of Pan-African unity was a considerable advantage for the colonizers, while there were instances of cooperation among African entities. There was no widespread or sustained continent-wide alliance that could mount a unified resistance against European colonization. This absence of a unified front allowed European powers to negotiate separately with different groups, playing them against each other and ensuring that resistance to colonization was localized and fragmented. How did European powers use the Berlin Conference to shape the colonization of Africa? Building on internal divisions, European colonizers applied more direct divide and conquer tactics to manipulate African societies. By exacerbating conflicts, they often armed one side of pre-existing disputes, shifting the balance of power and portraying themselves as peacemakers or protectors. This manipulation not only entrenched their influence, but also fragmented African resistance further, making organized opposition more challenging. The infamous Berlin Conference of 1884-1885 epitomizes these tactics. Without African representation, European nations divided the continent into territories that disregarded existing cultural, political, and linguistic boundaries. This arbitrary partitioning sowed the seeds of long-term political and social instability across Africa. The effects of this are evident in numerous border disputes and ethnic conflicts that persist to this day. Additionally, European colonial regimes imposed systems of forced labor and heavy taxation. These policies undermined African self-sufficiency and economic independence, breeding resentment and dependency. This economic manipulation facilitated further European control, as many African communities became economically tied to and reliant upon colonial economies. Moreover, colonizers often disrupted traditional governance systems by forcing European legal codes and administrative systems upon African societies. They weakened indigenous authority structures and replaced traditional governance methods with those that favored European interests, ensuring easier administration and control over their colonies. The divide and conquer approach was sophisticatedly complemented by political and diplomatic maneuvers. The Berlin Conference also highlighted the diplomatic strategies European powers used to avoid conflict among themselves while carving up Africa. By formally agreeing on how to annex territories, they prevented inter-European conflicts, focusing instead on subjugating African societies. Moreover, specific alliances and treaties between European nations played crucial roles in the colonial endeavor. Treaties like the Anglo-Portuguese Treaty facilitated cooperative colonization efforts and sometimes spurred competitive endeavors among European powers, each vying for greater influence and control in Africa. These agreements ensured that European nations supported one another's colonial ambitions, thereby consolidating their collective dominance over the continent. How did economic and psychological strategies combine to facilitate European control in Africa? Economic interests, particularly the need for raw materials crucial to Europe's developing industries, were a major driving force behind the European push into Africa. Rubber, gold, and diamonds were among the many valuable resources found in abundance across the African continent. The insatiable European demand for these materials fueled intense competition among colonial powers to establish and control territories rich in these resources. The establishment of extensive trade networks was a direct result of this scramble for resources. European colonizers set up sophisticated systems to extract and transport these materials efficiently back to Europe. This not only involved the construction of infrastructure like railways and ports, but also the imposition of new economic systems within colonized areas to ensure a steady flow of goods. This economic exploitation was one of the primary drivers of the imperialistic push, fundamentally reshaping African economies and societies to serve European industrial demands. Accompanying physical colonization efforts, European powers employed psychological warfare through propaganda to justify their expansionist activities. The narrative of the civilizing mission was pivotal, wherein Europeans claimed to bring enlightenment, Western education, religion, and culture to what they labeled as backward societies. This propaganda played a crucial role in shaping the perceptions of both the colonizers and the colonized. In Europe, such propaganda helped garner public and political support for colonization efforts, painting them as noble endeavors. Conversely, in Africa, it served to undermine traditional structures and create divisions within societies by promoting European superiority and destabilizing established norms and values. This psychological manipulation was essential in maintaining control over colonized populations, facilitating easier administration and reducing the likelihood of resistance. Who were the key figures in African resistance movements during the scramble for Africa? Despite the overwhelming military, economic, and psychological strategies employed by European colonizers, not all African societies succumbed to European control. Significant resistance movements sprang up across the continent, showcasing the resilience and fighting spirit of various African communities. One of the most iconic examples of successful resistance was the Battle of Adwa in 1896, where Ethiopian forces, led by Emperor Menelik II, decisively defeated the Italian army. This victory was crucial as it preserved Ethiopia's independence, making it one of the few African nations to successfully resist European colonization during the scramble for Africa. The Battle of Adwa remains a powerful symbol of African resistance and capability, highlighting the potential for successful defiance against better-armed colonial forces. Further south, influential leaders like Shaka Zulu and Samurai Toure epitomized the spirit of resistance. Shaka Zulu, renowned for his military tactics and leadership, consolidated the Zulu nation and fiercely contested British advances in southern Africa. Meanwhile, Samurai Touré orchestrated prolonged guerrilla warfare against French colonial forces in West Africa, adapting modern weapons and tactics to extend the resistance for nearly 2 decades. These stories of resilience and determination showcase Africa's enduring spirit against colonial oppression. They reveal a past marked not only by exploitation, but also by a relentless struggle for freedom. Recognizing these struggles is key to forging a just and equitable future for Africa and beyond. Well, history seekers, that's a wrap on how Europe exploited, divided, and conquered Africa. If you found value in this journey through the complex and painful history of colonization, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us produce more insightful content like this. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.